I want to welcome you today to our new podcast that we are speaking about all things related to hypothyroid and Hashimoto's. And I want to introduce you to a wonderful friend and colleague of mine, Ginny Mahar. She's a thyroid health and cooking coach who teaches Thyroid Thrivers, I love that, how to cook, eat, and live for optimal health. And Ginny has over 20 years of background as a Cordon Bleu-trained chef and food writer, cooking instructor, but her career took a fun turn after a Hashimoto's diagnosis. So through her own health transformation, she became a passionate thyroid advocate on a mission to empower and support others on their healing journeys. And don't we need that? She runs a group health coaching community called the Thrivers Club and works with clients one-on-one as functional medicine health coach. And I love Ginny. She takes what we perceive as, oh my gosh, how do I get started? How do I really break this down and be able to enable? I'm not running a restaurant. I want to be able to cook for my family, be healthy, and we're going to go into what does that mean. It's joyous. It's a gift to find out how practical and easy and forthright this can be. So welcome, Ginny. Thank you so much for all that you do for our community and for helping us really achieve maximum results and have fun in the process.
Oh, thanks so much, Joni. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And, give me a background about you. And I mean, a Cordon Bleu chef and a Hashimoto's diagnosis, what a combination. When did that all start and how did that morph?
So my background is in food. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a chef and recipe developer, and then started cooking professionally when I was 18 and cooked my way through college, eventually went to culinary school, all of that, cooked in restaurants, catered, did all kinds of stuff. And when I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, it was 2011. It was just a couple months after the birth of my son, James. And it really, I had no idea how much this diagnosis was going to affect me. Mm-hmm. But the 4 years following that diagnosis were really, really difficult for me. I was just sick all the time, tired all the time. I didn't feel like myself. It just felt impossible to lose weight in spite of, doing the things my doctor told me to do, like eat less and exercise more and all of that. And I kept saying, is there something else I should be doing? Are there foods I should be avoiding? I feel like something's off and I'm missing something. And even though, my TSH was normal and I was on thyroid medication and under proper medical care and all of that, I was not doing well at all. And I finally, after 4 years of that, things just really declined over that time to where I was like, I think the last winter, I remember being on like 3 or 4 different rounds of antibiotics because I was just I wasn't thriving, Yes. I think of hypothyroidism as like an energy issue, and it affects every system in the body. And even though, the doctor's like, oh, this has nothing to do with your thyroid, your TSH is normal, I knew something wasn't right. And so I couldn't even recover from like the common cold. That would turn into ear infections and strep throat and tonsillitis and just what is happening to me. I used to be a person who never got sick and has, energy and,
Yeah.
And it was like, I just felt so flat. So finally, I did hit rock bottom with that, and I started looking for answers. And at the time, I was working as a cooking instructor locally and also recipe blogging, which I've been doing for a long time. And I was starting to kind of make these correlations between what I ate and how I felt. And I mentioned to this class I was teaching, it was on like a health-oriented cookbook. And I said, I'm really trying to work with the director of the cooking school to find classes I can still teach because I have hypothyroidism and I feel like it's really affecting my health. And I'm trying to discover ways I can use food to support myself. And after the class, there's about 20 people in my each cooking class. Out of that class, 3 women came up to me. So, kind of statistically on par with how many of us have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. And they shared so much with me. Oh my gosh, you have to read this book. And my sister and I reversed our Hashimoto's by only cutting out wheat, all these stories and anecdotes and personal experience with this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just like a huge light bulb went off. And I was so grateful to these other patients for sharing this knowledge with me because it really sparked a whole new, it was like that night I came home and I'm like, oh my gosh, this changes everything. I have to know everything I can about this. I found a new doctor, someone in the, holistic functional realm. In where I live, my best option was this naturopath who I adore and have worked with for years and still work with. And the first thing she talked to me about when we met was food and anti-inflammatory eating. So things like avoiding, inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, sugar, inflammatory oils, processed foods, and things like that. Now, I was already, I was a chef, so I'm cooking from scratch, and I've always been in organics and, thought of myself as a healthy cook and eater. But this suddenly, it did 2 things. A, it opened up this hope that, oh my gosh, there are things I can do. I'm not crazy. Food and lifestyle does make a difference. Mm-hmm. I also learned I have Hashimoto's. So we know that, food and lifestyle, have a huge impact on autoimmunity, including, other like common thyroid symptoms. So that was one part of it. But the other part, kind of the shadow side to that, was it really turned my life and career upside down, because it was like somebody took, I think of like the artist palette with all the different colors, as a chef and a creative, somebody who really likes to create new recipes and try new things with food always. It was like somebody wiped half the colors off of that artist palette. And I had this whole new approach that I needed to learn to cooking and recipe development and eating, the way I fed myself. So food really gave me my life and health back. It was just after I hit rock bottom, found that new doctor, started learning these things. We found some other root cause stuff. It really was just a few months before I had my energy back. I felt like me again. It was this miraculous turnaround that totally changed the direction of my life and my life's work and my passions. And it also put me on this path that so many of us are on, where it's like, I'm overwhelmed with what I have to learn. I'm overwhelmed with making these changes. I'm grieving, saying goodbye to, just
psychological.
One of my favorite foods. Yeah, food has a huge emotional element. It's how we connect with people. It's how we celebrate. It's creativity. To me, it was like my art. And so I really had to update and change my relationship with food. And while it wasn't easy, it did absolutely give me my life back. So yeah, that really sparked, a passion in me. And that's when I started Hypothyroid Chef. That was back in 2015.
My goodness.
Because I wanted to share my journey. And I'm like, I'm going to be eating this way, learning this stuff, developing these recipes. Why not share it and connect with other thyroid thrivers, as I call them,
Right.
to share this journey. And the rest is history. And here we are.
Well, and I'm so glad that sometimes we think it turns out to be such a blessing. What turned out to be a horrible experience. And thank you for sharing this. You bring so much new insight to the field of food and healing. And I'm so grateful that I talk to so many women, after they've given birth, have you noticed that too? That after they discover they have Hashimoto's, and oftentimes they're just said, well, take thyroid medication or not. And there's not much discussion about how impactful nutrition and food. We need both. 3 times a day, we open up that lion's cage and we have to feed that. So, and the practicality of a family. And so tell me about your approach. I mean, what is your, how would one get started? You've taken this vast amount of information and simplified it with such grace and beauty, really, because how would one get started if they find out they have Hashimoto's, which our tribe does, you and I both have that, and to be able to go, I've got this, and I don't have to go start a second career and go through this huge learning curve.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, first, thank you, Joni. I so appreciate your always generous praise and support. It's so fun to, I love food because it connects people and it can immediately open up a dialogue. It's kind of like talking about the weather. You can talk to anybody about recipes, food, different things you like. And so I love that about food. And I love that, that is part of how we connected. But to answer your question, so how do I approach this? That's one of the most common questions I get from my coaching clients, from my Thrivers Club members is, okay, where do I start? And I guess the first thing I want to say is my motto around this is live well, eat well, sleep well, feel well. So I just want to mention that because I try to always point out to people, food isn't the only piece of the puzzle, but it is a really essential piece. And I think one of the reasons people are confused about this is a lot of us are told in conventional medicine, I was told that every year, food won't make a difference, diet won't make a difference. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with this. And, that is actually it's not true. When over 90% of us have hypothyroidism because of Hashimoto's, there is absolutely a food and lifestyle component. Yeah. So, food can make a difference. Food is medicine. And as you mentioned, 3 times a day, it's this input that we're giving our bodies. Mm-hmm. So food is more than just fuel. It gives information to our bodies. It gives information to our cells. It totally impacts every cell in the body, and every cell in the body has thyroid hormone receptors. How can this not make a difference? It absolutely does. And I think, that's one of the empowering things about it that I try to, share with people is this is a good thing. This gives us some control. We can't control everything about our health. Sometimes there are going to be those things that just happen to us. But with food and lifestyle, we have that choice point. That's really empowering. So that's kind of where I start with people, but a lot of it, we kind of have to we got to wrap our heads around it. We have to, sort of get to through the mindset blocks around this. And hey, this is something I want to lean into, embrace, and that I can, learn about not just for my thyroid function, but for my overall health, and not just as a diet. Like, Ginny, tell me what the diet is so I can just do this diet and cure myself. And no, we're talking about, I know, Joni, you're shaking your head. We've talked about how much we don't like that diet mindset, because
No.
diet means temporary. We're going for a lifestyle approach, and that means something that is ultimately sustainable. So to get into like the specifics of what is thyroid healthy eating, there isn't a one size fits all, but there are some common goals and pillars and dietary templates that we can use to get started. So when I work with people, that's a lot of it is just those beginning conversations. Where are you at? What do you want? What's your health situation? What does your doctor or health practitioner feel is appropriate for you at this point? Because, we're all at different points on the path. Someone might just be, I just want to dial up my nutrition and, use this to feel better. Another person might be dealing with SIBO and be on a specific protocol that they need support with. So there are a lot of different circumstances that we show up with. So what are your circumstances? What are your goals? Yes. Where do you want to get to? And what approach do you want to take to get there? But because, I know your listeners want to know, but tell me some specifics about like thyroid healthy eating. What does that even mean? Yes. So the common goals of thyroid healthy eating are that it is anti-inflammatory. So we want to calm that inflammatory response in the body by avoiding inflammatory foods and foods that we are personally sensitive to, which are also going to have the potential to inflame us and make things worse, to put it simply. So anti-inflammatory, it's nutrient dense. So we're giving our cells and our organs and those body systems the best nutrients that we can from, calorie for calorie. We want to dial up that nutrient density. Thyroid healthy eating is also gut health supportive because, as you know, and as we talked about when I had you on my podcast, the thyroid and the gut are so interconnected and we have to maintain our gut health. So thyroid healthy eating, I like to point out to people, is also healthy eating. It's gut healthy eating, it's hormone healthy eating, it's blood sugar healthy eating. It kind of takes a big picture approach. And ultimately, the final goal I always list with thyroid healthy eating is that it's personalized. So looking at, helping people get to that lifelong, sustainable, enjoyable relationship with food.
Yes.
That's, it's not necessarily going to be paleo or gluten-free, dairy-free. It's going to be unique to you because we can discover, there's tools we can use to discover, what am I uniquely sensitive to? There are those common, problem foods that are good places to start, like gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, things like that, processed foods, alcohol. So those are good places to start, and we can use dietary templates that cut out those foods as a starting point. Ultimately, and especially after we can use those dietary templates therapeutically to heal from whatever, maybe we're dealing with leaky gut dysbiosis. There's other things that we deal with, as you know. When we heal, then we can ultimately get to a point where we can start reintroducing foods and also discovering through that reintroduction process, okay, what can I successfully reintroduce and what still isn't right for me or just does not work, maybe it's just a genetic thing. Like I have a genetic egg intolerance in my family that I have, my mom has, my son has, my grandfather had. We can all eat some eggs, but not too many. So that's just an example of how do we discover that personalized approach that really serves us in a bio-individual way. So what are the foods that we're focusing on? Lots of colorful organic plant foods. Clean animal protein. So we're talking about, your grass-fed beef, your pasture-raised pork and poultry, wild seafood and things like that. Healthy fats. So things like extra virgin olive oil, avocados, avocado oil, omega-3 rich foods like certain nuts, if you can tolerate nuts, adequate hydration. So we want to be using filtered water and avoiding chlorine and fluoride, especially in our water, which are two known thyroid disruptors. And then also, I try to incorporate a lot of thyroid supportive foods. So what does that mean? Foods, well, there's two things that means. One is foods that, specifically support the thyroid, like selenium is an example of a nutrient that I try to include. That's in things like mushrooms or Brazil nuts, just as examples. Selenium plays a directly supportive and protective role to the thyroid. Other, what I think of as thyroid supportive foods might support the thyroid function in more indirect ways. So I think of like beets as an example. They're, highly nutritious in many ways, but one thing they're highly supportive of is our liver health. And when we have healthy liver function, we're going to have better thyroid function. It's going to help with that thyroid hormone absorption and conversion and metabolism, so that's more of like sort of an indirectly thyroid supportive food. So yeah, I try to really incorporate, those specific foods as well into my recipes. And I guess this is kind of a long way of answering, so where do I start? A lot of times, I know we have feelings about, diets, right?
Right.
But common dietary templates can make really good starting points. So it's like a springboard that gives us a common language. So we can say to like our practitioner, someone can say to you, I'm currently eating paleo, or I'm currently gluten-free, dairy-free, or you can tell a patient, let's think about the autoimmune protocol for you based on your, health criteria and circumstances or whatever. So those dietary templates can make a great starting point. They can be therapeutic in like promoting gut healing, giving our bodies a chance to calm that inflammation down, help the gut heal, and, whatever it is. I mean, like SIBO, for example, another really common gut health issue. Someone might be using the low FODMAP diet for something like that. So that's where there really is no like one size fits all. But, we can always find like, what's a good starting point that's based on my goals, my dreams, my lifestyle.
Right.
Are you cooking for kids? What feels sustainable and doable for you right now? Because to just jump, like, let's just dump everyone into the autoimmune protocol, which is like a really restrictive healing protocol. And I'm all for it when it's necessary. But for some people, it's not necessary. Maybe someone is on the standard American diet and they're just trying to stop drinking a 6-pack of soda every day. Right. Okay, let's talk about maybe just trying out gluten-free, dairy-free. Or if that's too much, maybe, what do you think about maybe just going gluten-free, seeing how that goes as an experiment to see, is this a factor for you? Does it help you feel better? So yeah, that's a lot of the work is like, let's really talk about you personally, what your goals and needs are and what is the right starting point for you. Because even, baby steps can take us really far. Sometimes those bigger steps like the autoimmune protocol are necessary and great. We know that that's what you need to do for now for a set period of time. Let's do that with support and encouragement and recipes. I have all that too. So it's just, where are you at? Where do you want to go? And let's come up with that starting point that's right for you together. Yeah.
That's what makes you unique, Jenny, because you take into consideration lifestyle and what you want and what is sustainable rather than a one size fits all, which doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And that's what I found so rewarding about you. There's that uniqueness that you take the time to find out. And it's not it's not overwhelming. In fact, that makes it more systematic and practical, because it fits in. It's not, on page 20 of some, study says we should do this restricted diet. It's just not necessary. But so what misconceptions do you find as you're talking with these clients? I know you mentioned one, about the myth of the one size fits all,
Yeah. There is no one size fits all. I think one of the most common ones that we also kind of touched on is just that it won't make a difference.
Okay. Yes.
In what universe does food and lifestyle not make a difference?
Exactly. Yes. And that's a
big difference.
That's a big deal, because we want our efforts to make a difference no matter what we do, and then struggling too. That you touched on this, but what do clients struggle most with? The head trip, I call it, the
mindset piece.
Yeah. Is that?
That's a lot of it. And I think that's an ongoing thing, and that's why, so much of what I do is more than just recipes, because there is that emotional component. There's a spiritual component. There's the lifestyle component. You can be eating the best foods and you're staying up till 1 a.m. every night, binging on Netflix, not getting enough sleep, hardly drinking any water. Those things, it's not, it takes that whole health approach, as you know. So yeah, I did want to mention one other common misconception, and that's I can't eat broccoli or cauliflower or cabbage or other cruciferous vegetables. The goitrogen topic is a really common, I hesitate to call it a myth, because these foods have goitrogenic compounds that, in some studies were shown to inhibit thyroid function. And that's real, that science is real. But I think what happened was the researchers said, wait a minute, and the doctors and the experts said, wait a minute, is it really a good idea? Is it necessary to be telling thyroid patients to avoid something like broccoli? Yes. Especially these cruciferous vegetables are some of the most health supportive, liver supportive, anti-cancer, cellularly supportive, healthy foods
that is a huge point. Yes.
So should we just be telling people to cut them out? And I'd love to hear, your thoughts on this, but my understanding is that what the experts found when looking more closely at that research is, wait a minute, we would need to eat a really, an abnormally huge amount of these foods to have a negative impact on the thyroid. And also, simply cooking these foods greatly reduces or eliminates those goitrogenic or thyroid inhibiting compounds. Exactly. So the rule of thumb I always give people is, it's probably not an issue. If you want to be on the safe side, the rule of thumb is just cook those foods whenever possible, but some raw is probably okay in normal or moderate amounts. Exactly. And there are people who react to those foods, but what I find is oftentimes it's because of some other underlying issue, like a sulfur intolerance, those foods high in sulfur, a gut health issue or something like that. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I totally agree. And I thank you for bringing that up, because people say, the cruciferous vegetables in general have helped anti-cancer. They did a study on DIM, which goes after estrogen dominance. And it's all natural. It's all broccoli, cauliflower, that type of thing. And they compared the study to tamoxifen, which is a prescription drug that they give cancer patients that are estrogen dominant. And DIM did not outperform tamoxifen, but it was on the same level of the ability to decrease the estrogen month after month after month. So I totally agree with you. We need to keep the cruciferous vegetables in our diet as Hashimoto's kids. We need, and as you said, there's lateral root causes that blood work would identify, and we tackle those, and we live a good big life, and that is a huge myth that is wonderful to thank you for addressing that, because the studies did say we have to have a wheelbarrow full of before it would have any impact. So
yeah, well, and it feels tragic too, kind of, doesn't it, to to hear from people who are, they reach out and say, I eat thyroid healthy because I avoid broccoli and cauliflower, and it's like, oh, but
yeah,
healthy food. So yeah,
that's
most of the experts that I, read their books and research and are, who I consider my mentors are like, that is kind of an outdated thing, because it isn't just cruciferous vegetables. When you look at the lists of goitrogenic foods, they are like a mile long and full of, berries and stone fruits and all kinds of really, really healthy, high antioxidant, anti-inflammatory ingredients. So
the more we can get from food, the better. I love your example of selenium and Brazil nuts, and we need selenium and zinc to convert T4 to T3. And so if we can get that from food as much as possible, let's do that. So so when a client comes to you, how do you help them with their challenges? I know you went into your process a little bit, and what I find so unique and what I love is that you identify what their challenges are. I love that there's not a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah. So when people are really ready to start making these thyroid healthy changes and learn about, well, what does that mean? What is thyroid healthy eating? How can I find, the approach that's right for me, and unique to me, so that it's sustainable, so that it's not a, 30-day diet. We're looking for like the long-term lifestyle approach. There's a couple different ways. First, I created a signature course called the Thyroid Healthy Meal Plan Kickstart. So that's a great option for people who want like that crash course, and it's sort of a do-it-yourself approach. So it's got like everything you need. This is what thyroid healthy eating is. These are the whys behind it. Let me show you how you can, use these different dietary templates. You can choose which approach is right for you with your health practitioner, and get started with meal plans and recipes, and to give you like that jumping off point. And also, I think the education about how does this work? What is it? That can be a great place for people to start. But yeah, that is more of like a do-it-yourself approach, which is what some people want. But I think where, the real magic happens is with health coaching, especially in my group health coaching membership, the Thrivers Club. It's where like doing this work together. We're on the path together. I mean, I participate as, not just the coach and guide, but, to have that community support, to know that we're not on this path alone is really powerful. But in there, not only, can people get like that connection with me, that access to me for the group health coaching, not only is there that community piece, not only is there the content, there's lots of different expert resources and PDFs and guides and things like that. But I think one of the most powerful parts of it is accountability. So every month we do these wellness challenges where we take these concepts and we apply them for 21 days. And we have like a score sheet, they pick a winner, they get like a prize at the end. It's really fun. Everybody checks in and supports each other. We're cheering each other on. Are we all on the same diet? Absolutely not. Are we all in the same situation? No. Do we all have the same diagnosis? No. I mean, there's thyroid cancer survivors who have had total thyroidectomy. There's Hashimoto's people. There's hyperthyroid and Graves patients who have undergone a radioactive iodine treatment. There's, all of us are kind of on a different path, but we have those shared understanding of like what it means to, not have a normally functioning thyroid, which it can mean a lot. The list of correlated symptoms with an underactive or missing thyroid or an overactive thyroid is hundreds of symptoms long. So it really can affect us in profound ways. But yeah, that shared, support, encouragement, and everyone on this path of let's do everything we can. Let's take those things that are within our power and optimize them,
Yes.
So yeah, that's and like my approach and philosophy in helping people do that is really just, as we talked about, to help people discover a way of eating and living to support your health forever. We already talked about the word diet. Diet means temporary. I'm not interested in helping people find a temporary fix. I really want to help them harness the healing power of food to not just become empowered patients, but empowered eaters. And to fall in love with that, with the impact we can have on how we feel. That is an incredibly empowering and liberating thing to learn about your body, because these bodies they are amazing machines.
They are.
And we're the head mechanic. We're the one putting in we want the good, motor oil and all that stuff, So my intention is not to just give people a fish. I really want to teach them to fish so that they have those lifelong skills that they can use long after, we're working together.
Yes. And Ginny, your message comes through loud and clear. Your recipes are unique, family friendly. They're fun and they're nutritious, and I just, kudos to you for taking something that we as thyroid thrivers, as you say, or ThyroSisters, and we need this help in this area. It's a great niche that you have filled, and I so appreciate all of your brilliant work. It really is, because it takes finesse to have recipes that are family friendly and nutritious and healthy, and meet the person's needs, not only physically but spiritually and mentally. But
thank you, Joni. That's so kind to hear. And I realize I'm not working, when I used to recipe blog, I was attracting more people who wanted the, fancy chefy recipes. This niche, this community, I realize I'm not necessarily always working with foodies. These are busy people who often don't feel well. They need simple solutions that taste great. They need healthy foods that excite them, and techniques and simple little flavor boosting hacks, time saving tricks, and things like that. That's where my chef background comes in. So I always tell people, don't be intimidated by the chef thing. I'm not here to impress people with complicated recipes. I'm here to help problem solve and try to provide real world recipes for real people who have these, specific health needs and goals. So thank you for your kind words about that, though.
Well, it's true, because I face that myself. I cook for a family. I like to go out, and most people socialize, and, what can I eat when I go into a restaurant? And you can implement some of the things that, I've learned through you, and just order that in a restaurant, in a restaurant. So lots of different ways to make this so it's workable. You're a normal weight, you have the energy, you're sleeping well. Is that asking too much? To just have your and food is such an integral part of that. It's the cornerstone, and that you assist and encourage and help people to do that in such a timely, systematic, creative way. It's just great. And I mean, just even and over the 4th of July, your burgers and just simple things that one can do. Oh, that's a great recipe, and so I thank you for that. And how to get in touch with Jenny is all below this podcast. And and you have share with us the you have a booklet that for our listeners.
The freebie.
Yes.
I have it's a thyroid-healthy grocery guide. So this is a free download that they can find when they come to hypothyroidchef.com, or you can get it at hypothyroidchef.com/grocery. So this is a 1-page printable that features over 130 colorful, delicious, nutrient-dense foods we can eat. Now, of course, we do all have personalized, food needs, but this list is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and sugar-free. So it's all, whole, colorful foods that you can use as just a inspiration tool. You can take it to the grocery store with you. You can use it to start imagining, what could I take from here that I really like, and start thinking about some simple meals I can throw together using these clean, wholesome, thyroid supportive ingredients. So
wonderful. And we'll have the link to that under the podcast here, so people can segue right in. So Jenny, in any closing thoughts that you would like to add? And that
I just want to thank you for the work that you do, because it takes a village, right? And what you're doing is helping people get to those root causes, and what I do, what I say is I do the hand holding. A lot of that, the more time consuming hand holding and teaching and education and all of that a lot of times the practitioners don't have time to do. It's not where their time is best spent, because what they need to do, what you are focusing on, is let's figure out the underlying root cause so that we can really pinpoint, a specific strategy that people need. And so I guess, kind of tying that into a closing thought is coming back to that, get the support you need, find the practitioner that you need to get the help, do the root cause testing, get those answers, and then start, know that it doesn't happen overnight. We got to have that, long haul, long-term mindset so that we can stay calm and not overwhelm ourselves, not just feel like this is too much, I can't even, and know that, every single one of those little steps you take is going to help you reclaim your health. You can feel so much better. The food, the lifestyle, getting the right medical care, getting your medications optimized, all that stuff is part of the big picture puzzle. So know that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. That's normal in the beginning, and know that everyone starts out there, and it just keep taking those little steps, because success here isn't about perfection. It's not about adhering to a rigid set of dietary rules and restrictions. It's about staying the course ultimately. And that means finding the solutions that work for us, the support system that works for us, including, our medical support, and that whole big picture approach that ultimately can help us stay feeling healthy and vibrant and as good as we possibly can for as long as we can.
Oh, well said. Well said. Well, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ginny. This has been so enlightening and rewarding. Thank you for your time and your expertise on these things. And we'll look forward to talking soon. And please click on the links below and check in with Ginny and see all of her beautiful recipes and offerings there. Thanks again, Ginny.
Thank you, Joni. It was great to chat with you.